think about it geographically, Egypt is in the south. Over in the east, in Mesopotamia, was the ancient empire of Assyria. And that's where these reliefs are from, Assyria. Sandwiched in the middle of Assyria, which is now modern-day Iraq, and Egypt was Israel, the nation of Israel. So now they're kind of in the middle of a lot of controversy, and then they were too. Well, Sennacherib, meanwhile, is the king of Assyria in 700 BC. And just like great kings, he wants to grow his empire. He wants to conquer the nations around him. So that's exactly what he starts doing. He starts conquering nations around Assyria. And finally, he's very successful and he ends up at Israel. Now, he's excited about the idea of conquering Israel because not only does it mean that he's stronger than Israel as a nation, but it also means if he's able to conquer them, that he's stronger than Israel's God. So that was his goal. But how do you capture an ancient empire? Well, you have to take what city?
The capital.
The capital, exactly. And does anyone know what the capital of ancient Israel was?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, exactly. So Sennacherib's goal is to get Jerusalem, is to capture Jerusalem. Well, he begins his invasion and his conquest, and he takes 45 cities until he gets to Lachish, which is the final city to take on his way to Jerusalem. This is the last stop, and these reliefs tell the story or depict what happened at the Battle of Lachish. All right? So let's go and look and see what an ancient battle looks like, all right? If you look right here, you can see the Assyrian soldiers. These are the slingers with the sling and the stone, long-distance warfare. Then you see the rows of archers coming along for long distance. And as we move down the line, getting closer to the city of Lachish, we see some infantrymen with spears and shields coming on, advancing on the city, okay? And then we see siege ramps that have been built, and they're marching up siege ramps. Now, in ancient times, the way that they would protect cities was by building walls around it, right? And so the way to take a city that's got a wall around it is you have to get over the wall somehow, so they build these ramps. They probably weren't actually this steep, but they did it for the relief so that they could fit more on it. So you can see soldiers, Assyrians, invading, trying to come up the siege ramps, and meanwhile, torches and stones are being thrown down by the people from Lachish to try to defend the city. You see some other defenders and archers in this tower right here from Lachish. So this is a peek into an ancient battle scene. As good as it gets, high definition. Now let's look down here. You can come a little closer. Let's look down here. Somebody tell me what you see right here.
I see slaves.
Slaves, yeah, you see some people there. What we see is two soldiers, and they've got poles, and on top of those poles are dead people. Basically, they are human shish kebabs, because the Assyrians were notorious for their cruel practices. They wouldn't just kill you, because that's too humane. They would torture you first and make sure you die a slow, painful, and exemplary death to the rest of your comrades, because they specialize on intimidation. They did these cruel tactics in order to intimidate their enemies so that they would melt with fear as soon as they heard that the Assyrians were coming to town. I think I would be pretty scared too. Well, let's keep moving down the line. So they've gotten over the city walls, and now they've captured the city, and they're taking their plunder. They're taking their plunder. So we've got a cart and some soldiers right here, and they've got their candles. They've got some valuables that they're stealing from the city. They've got candlesticks, and they've got other valuable objects, but not only objects, they've got valuable human resources. Slaves. You can see a mother and a child being carted off into slavery, into exile right here in Lachish. Alright, so if you want to come to the corner, we have a chair right here, but maybe some of you can see. Tell me what you see right here in this area. Anybody see? Tell me what's going on here. Yeah, you've got the soldiers are laying out two men, and if you look carefully at their legs, you see lines on their legs. Those are exposed muscles and tendons. Because like we said, the Assyrians wouldn't just kill you, they'd torture you first. So they've ripped off the flesh of these men to help them die in a more painful way. and also in order to intimidate their enemies. They were brutal. So let's continue down the line. We've got more slaves that are leaving the city. Now somebody tell me the difference between this guy and this guy. Whose side do you think this guy's on? The Assyrians, yeah, the conquerors, the Assyrians. And whose side do you think this guy's on? The slave, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell that, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. All right? Now as we come down the line, you see the slaves are being forced to bow down or pay homage to King Sennacherib himself.